Travel along, Catholic pilgrims, as we read letters from the voyages of St. Frances Cabrini as she traveled around the Western Hemisphere sharing the good news of Christ. Hello, Catholic pilgrims, welcome. So we just finished up the voyage that brought Mother Cabrini to Buenos Aires, and now we are starting one that takes her from Buenos Aires to Genoa. It's August of 1901, so it's been about 9 months from when she landed. Now, this is just one letter. It's unfinished, but there's only one date entry. And that means we will read the whole thing today, and then I'll give my reflection. And then that'll be the end of the voyage. Mother Cabrini is going to talk about visiting a church called Our Lady of the Candelaria, or more appropriately, la iglesia de Nuestra Señora de la Candelaria. It's in Rio de Janeiro. She talks about counting the candlesticks that are shaped like a pyramid. I went to go see if I could find pictures of the church, and sure enough, Mother Cabrini's description is spot on. I'll link it in the show notes if you want to go take a look. So let's get started by turning to page 265. Buenos Aires to Genoa, August 1901. From the Bay of Buenos Aires, August 22nd, 1901. My dear daughters, may the good Jesus be with you all and comfort you. May he accompany us on your voyage and conduct us to port. Amen. Nel cuor dolcissimo, de immenso amor, io voglio chiudermi, in tutti lor, da lui vo attingere, pace e conforto, clai farà scendere, nel mare e in porto. In the sweetest heart of immense love, I want to close myself, at all hours. From him I want to draw peace and comfort, that he will send down into the sea and into the port. We embarked on the 22nd of August, but I have not begun to write until today, the 28th, when we have just left the port of Santos. The day I left Buenos Aires, I was not feeling well, and your farewell and that of the children had really overcome me, and I remained in this exhausted state for a good while. Having said goodbye to the 3 sisters who were at the farthest end of the bay, I went to my cabin and to bed. My bones were stiffened with pain, and I hadn't the strength to move the smallest object. I wanted to put my cabin in order, but I had to leave it as it was, for I could not stand. 2 days later, I felt better, and well enough to go ashore at Santos, though it was raining. I asked the way to the church, and those whom I interrogated wanted to know if I was looking for the Iglesia. I was afraid of being directed to some schismatic church, so said no, and went on. On asking others, I got the same reply, so at last I understood that the word meant Catholic Church. Some offered to go with us to the parish church, which they call the Mother Church. When we arrived at the church, we found solemn high mass, just beginning, accompanied by drums and trumpets, which took the place of an organ or harmonium, neither of which the church possessed. In the meantime, we asked the priest to give us Holy Communion at the altar of the Blessed Sacrament, and thus, comforted by the food of angels, we returned to the steamer, sure of a happy and prosperous voyage. It was raining, and we got quite wet. Had it not been that we wished to receive Holy Communion, we should not have gone ashore at all. We had 2 umbrellas, but when we reached the church, that of my companion would not close, so we left it open without anyone taking the least notice of it. One good man turned to me and said, "It is our curate who is celebrating Mass. He is very good, and we love him very much." He spoke to me in Portuguese, and I understood him fairly well, as it is a language which, one might say, comes midway between the Italian and Spanish languages. I could do nothing else but congratulate him. When we had finished our devotions, we went to the sacristy to ask the curate's blessing. He received us with singular kindness. He wanted to entertain us longer, but we had no time, so said goodbye, accompanied by his blessing, which seemed like that of a patriarch. I wanted to visit the town, but there was no carriage to be had, so we returned at once on board. The steamer then departed, and in 2 hours' time we reached Rio de Janeiro. It was about 2 p.m., and I should have loved to visit the town, but the steamer stood out a great distance from the land. Moreover, the sea, as usual in this place, was very rough, so I thought it better not to undertake the double journey there and back, especially as I wanted to go and receive Holy Communion the next morning, which I did not want to miss. The captain had told me they would remain in port until the following day at 2 p.m., so the next morning we went on shore as soon as possible. They had offered me the ship's boat, but I should have had to wait until 8 a.m., so I decided to hire a boat, trusting to the providence of God to carry me safely through the agitated waves and over a distance lasting half an hour. In fact, we reached land quite safely and turned towards the first steeple we could see. We lost sight of it, however, as we passed through the narrow streets and between the houses. So we asked for the Iglesia, having learnt the name at Santos, and everyone with great kindness pointed out the way to us. We entered the first church we saw. It was called the Candelaria. It is beautiful, rich, and kept in great cleanliness. The altars are of very fine colored marble. On the high altar there is a statue of Our Lady with the infant Jesus. This Madonna is called Our Lady of the Candelaria, or Purification. I took pleasure in counting the candlesticks on the high altar, which were grand and in the form of a pyramid, and were placed at the foot of Our Lady. There were 52 in number. Perhaps the number had some meaning, but not knowing the language, I was unable to ask why the candlesticks should be 52 in number. As soon as we entered the church, we went to the altar of the Blessed Sacrament, which was along the nave of the church next to the high altar. Above it hung a majestic, monumental crucifix, under which was a painting of Calvary. Several canons were reciting the office, and 2 altar boys were seated near the canons. I called one to tell him that I wanted to receive Holy Communion. He spoke to one of the canons, who answered that the office would last 2 hours, during which no one could receive Holy Communion. I could not wait, so I asked the boy to show me the way to another church, which he did very willingly. Saluting the Blessed Sacrament, I was just on the point of leaving when I met a priest, and told him I should like to receive Holy Communion, but that I could not wait for 2 hours, and would he please show me the way to another church. No, he said, stay here. I'm going to say Mass at which you can receive Holy Communion. In fact, as quickly as he could, he came and celebrated Mass at the second altar of the church, the altar of the Sacred Heart, which was beautiful also. As the lovely benches of the church did not reach so far down as this altar, the sacristan came forward with 2 lovely cushions for us to kneel upon. I was astonished at so much kindness, but it was in keeping with the dignity of the whole place that great courtesy should be shown to visitors. Having made our thanksgiving and had a look around the church, we went out, and as my companion and I were now very hungry, I saw a cafe where we appeased our hunger, and then, taking a cab, we visited the town, which is partly built on hills. We went to that part called St. Anna, as they told us the papal legate resided here. But meeting a priest, he told us the legate was at Petropolis. We lost no time, and descending halfway, we met the vicar general, who asked us at once if we had seen the bishop. No, I said, for I did not know he lived here, and I have no time to go back. I gave him my visiting card to present to the bishop. He took it very kindly, said he would present it at once to the bishop, and that he would ask for a special blessing for the prosperous continuation of my voyage. I felt very sorry I could not return, but there was no time. From this grand hill you can see the whole town and the bay. I should have loved to go to Petropolis, but it was 3 hours' distance by rail, so there was no possibility of my going. Rio de Janeiro is really beautiful. I like its smiling hills, its spacious squares and pretty gardens. I shall say nothing of the churches, as you have an idea after my description of the Candelaria. The canal which enters the bay of Rio de Janeiro is charming. What beautiful cone-shaped mountains! One of these, owing to its shape, is called the Sugar Loaf. These and others are so formed that they seem to rain abundance on the country. Even at Santos, the same impression is made, though Santos is not so much favored by nature. It is simply a road to St. Paul, which city everyone praises for its beauty. Brazil is certainly richer than the Argentine. They say it is not healthy, but I think that applies only to the lower and marshy parts of the town, which, if cleansed and put in order, would not suffer from contagious diseases. There are some very narrow and dirty streets in Rio de Janeiro, and the water which runs in the gutters, instead of cleansing like water does in the streets of Paris, rather helps to infect the town, for it looks more like slush. At Buenos Aires, the superintendent of the voyage company had given us 2 lovely cabins, one for the sisters and one for myself, opposite each other and in the best possible position, as they were on the west side of the steamer, where one never feels the contrary winds. We could always keep our portholes open and always have fresh air. At Santos, a large number of new passengers came on board. The steamer was quite full, and there was no more room, but some recommended by the superintendent and others by influential persons managed to get on board, and thus passengers in excess of the proper number were accepted. I feared a little, but as our tickets were endorsed reserved cabins, I remained tranquil. The day was almost over when I perceived the doctor approaching me. On behalf of the commander, he made a request. He said I had every right to refuse the favor about to be asked, but, as it was a very special case, he wanted to know if I would allow a lady, the wife of a chemist of St. Paul, a Venetian, to sleep in the same cabin with the sisters. She was traveling for family reasons only, and her husband asked as a favor that she might be placed near the sisters. He made the request so courteously that it was impossible to refuse him, and so I consented. And I am not sorry that I did so, for the lady is very good, courteous, and refined, so much so that one finds pleasure in her company. One would think she formed part of the community herself. Everyone admires her and respects her. After we left Rio de Janeiro, the sea was very rough, or bravo, as the Spaniards say. Indeed, it was so agitated that one would think it was really bravo, angry. At night, especially, it frightened me, as it was the first time I ever made such a long voyage on such a small steamer as the Piemonte. When we left Buenos Aires, we were never tired of praising it, as it did not make the slightest movement, but since it took on board a cargo of 20,000 sacks of coffee at Santos, it has never given us a moment's peace. It may have been the wind or the cargo, but the fact remains that since that day the rocking never ceased, and so momentous was it that one expected the steamer to capsize at any moment. Not being an experienced sailor, I thought my fear was justified, but the day after I asked the captain, and all my fear disappeared. Other disasters might happen, he said, but not the capsizing of the boat. The captain said the worst disaster of all was fire, but he added that even in the case of fire, there were many ways of saving oneself, the boat being built in such a way that it could be isolated into 3 separate parts in case of such a danger arising. One of my favorite things to do is visit Catholic churches. I've been to so many now that I've lost count. As a Protestant, this isn't something that you really do because, to be frank, a lot of Protestant churches aren't that interesting. Now, to be fair, there are some ugly Catholic churches too. Specifically in my mind is the one at the University of Berkeley that came about in the 60s and 70s. And to be fair again, there are some pretty Protestant churches. But in order for them to be pretty, they have to be from the denominations most closely splintered off the Catholic Church, like the Anglican, Lutheran, or a few Methodist churches. Mother Cabrini, through our travels with her, has been in some amazing churches. We've looked at a couple of them, and her descriptions are always very good. So I thought with this reflection, I'd like to talk about some of the most beautiful churches that I've been to in the U.S. Now, this isn't an exhaustive list by any means. I thought about including around the globe, but nearly all of them would be in the Holy Land because of the significance of those churches. And I just decided that I wanted to go about this a little differently. So here are 5 in no particular order. Number 5, Mission St. Carlos Borromeo in Carmel, California. This is the mission where St. Junipero Serra, The founder of the California missions is varied. It's a simple place and definitely has the Spanish-Mexican feel to it, but it's the flowers and foliage all around that really make it feel special. It's like a secret garden. There's this sense of peace there and quiet tranquility that makes you just want to sit with your Bible in the gardens and just spend time with God. Number 4, St. Mary's in Dayton, Ohio. Now, there are 3 major Catholic churches in downtown Dayton, and they are all very pretty. The second time we lived there, we went to Emmanuel, which is right downtown. Very beautiful church. But not too far away is another one, and it's St. Mary's, and I think it is the prettiest. My husband took me to see it for my birthday in 2020, before everything got shut down, and I was floored at this hidden gem. It's called the Twin Towers because it has 2 steeples, and I had seen it from the highway, but I just didn't think it would, be that special on the inside, and wow, was I proven wrong. It had a lot of emerald green around, which I thought was very striking. Number 3, the Immaculate Heart of Mary in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. First, the inside is just overwhelmingly beautiful, but what stuck out to me the most is how warm and comforting the lighting is in this church. You feel enveloped in this warm, luxurious light. Everything feels safe and secure. And the reason for all this light is there are these, I'd almost call them lampposts around the church that create this glow. And I've never seen anything like it. It almost feels like when you're walking down the aisle, you have these, they're kind of like lampposts, is kind of what they look like. You almost feel like you're walking down a street. It's very unique. I've never seen anything like it, like I said, but I just loved the lighting in that church. It was really pretty too, but the lighting was on point. Number 2, the National Basilica of the Immaculate Conception in D.C. Now, most Catholics have visited this amazing church, and the upstairs church is majestic and glorifies God in the most stunning of ways, but it's the lower crypt church that really gets to me. It's dark and mysterious and full of the smell of incense. It just has this vibe about it that makes you want to contemplate the deep mysteries of our faith. It's so good. And number 1, Cathedral Basilica of St. Louis in St. Louis, Missouri. This church is just a magnificent work of art all around. If you walk in there and aren't moved, well, your heart is 3 sizes too small, and I don't know what to tell you. I just don't. The colors are rich. The artwork is excellent. The way the whole church comes together is just a sight to behold, and it's huge, and it just really makes you proud to be a Catholic. I know we shouldn't be proud of those things, but it just really makes me proud that we have these gorgeous churches, big and beautiful, that just honor God in such a glorious way. So anyway, there are many more I could name, but I'd love to hear from you. What are some of your favorite churches in the U.S., or if you're listening to this from another country, tell me what your favorite church is in the country that you come from. This is something that we should really take advantage of, seeing these beautiful houses of God. Not just to go in and snap pictures, but to go and attend Mass in these churches that are attempting to bring heaven to earth. And we know that heaven comes to earth at every Mass. Mother Cabrini is always on the lookout for a Catholic church, and we should be too. That is all for this journey, Catholic pilgrims. Our next trip is from London to New York. But until then, live the faith boldly and travel well.